Part 120. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1194. As long as I'm here today, you can't even think of hurting Jia Yan. Tian Rongguang was told about his injuries by the other party. After his demeanor changed wildly, he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't think that I can't do it. I just need to defend myself with all my strength. Do you dare to kill me? You must know that we are in a normal star area. You secretly people from the field must abide by the terms of the genius battlefield when they come here. If you kill me, you will also be in big trouble." Huh? You're actually threatening me with death. Very good, then let's see if we can kill Jia Yan, who is under your protection. Among the 8 stars, the more they heard that Tian Rongguang wanted to protect Jia Yan, the more murderous they became. Legends, novel. At this time, this battle between the terrifying and powerful men is extremely critical. It is impossible to stop it, and it will break out almost instantly. Lord Tian Rongguang. In this tense scene, a voice suddenly broke the calm and sounded behind Tian Rongguang. It's Jia Yan. And at the same time as Jia Yan's voice sounded, the strange brainwave power that had been lingering around him expanded in an instant. Between heaven and earth, it was like a halo of light that suddenly rose up, completely sucking all the surrounding creatures into it. Huh? Jia Yan. Tian Rongguang was stunned when he sensed the brainwave power behind him. You must know that although this power appears to be at the venerable level on the surface, anyone who is a strong person can feel the terror of the power contained in it. Even this power is faintly beyond the half-star level, even if he is a high-level talent. Half a star level, it was a bit overwhelming at this time. "Thank you very much, Master Tian Rongguang," Jia Yan said sincerely, and then slowly, step by step, from behind Tian Rongguang, he crossed the void and walked out of his protective circle. "But, sir, I am no longer the Jia Yan I used to be. I really appreciate your guidance and protection along the way." Now, Jia Yan's momentum gradually increased, and slowly, he surpassed Tian Rongguang, surpassed the 3 high-end talented intruders, and surpassed all the creatures here. Boom. "Now, it's my turn to protect you." When Jia Yan finished speaking, his unreserved aura finally exploded completely, and the whole world seemed to be trembling with incomparable tremors because of the appearance of an earth-shattering existence here. Sky. What's going on? Is the universe going to be destroyed? What a terrible smell, this. On the main star of the Tianhe force in the rear, countless creatures were watching the battle from a distance, but at this time they all felt the trembling of the star, and also felt that the space could not bear the energy in the sky, and almost cracked. All the creatures were extremely frightened. Know why the war in the sky has reached such earth-shattering changes. Master Jia Yan. Xiao, who stayed in the meeting hall, had her eyes widened at this time. Others didn't know Jia Yan's aura, but she was very familiar with it. However, she was also surprised and confused at this time, because the familiar aura was far more powerful than Jia Yan's. It was countless times greater than what she remembered, and it was flying unscrupulously in the sky above the main star. That momentum is truly the only one in heaven and earth. Strong, too strong. Even the distant main star of the Tianhe force has caused such a huge change. At this time, Tian Rongguang and the elders of the Tianhe force around Jia Yan's momentum felt even more. Although this terrifying momentum was not targeted at their group of creatures, the mere trace of it leaked out completely shocked them. They all looked at Jia Yan's back dumbfounded, as if they were the junior they thought they were. Extremely tall at this time, far exceeding them, far exceeding all the creatures below the star level that they knew. Is this Jia Yan? Tian Tisu looked at Jia Yan's back in disbelief. He couldn't believe that this was the Jia Yan he had received before. What kind of strength is this? Your Majesty? No, secondary level? No, it's not even half-star level. Could it be that he has reached the pseudo-star level that the outside world says? No, no, that's not the case. What the hell is going on? Tianrongguang was also horrified. He looked at Jia Yan, who slowly walked in front of him step by step and protected him behind him. His head was completely messed up. Whether it was more than 10 years ago or before, Tianrongguang looked at Jia Yan as a junior who needed to be protected. However, this junior had extremely huge potential. Even 10 years ago, he got a strong man. With the protection of MOK, the Tianhe forces also benefited greatly from this relationship. But that's all. In his mind, Jia Yan has always been a genius who needs to be protected by himself. Even if he has great potential, it will take at least 100 years to catch up with him. He was disappointed when Jia Yan disappeared before, but he understood that if a genius wanted to become a real genius, he definitely needed experience and travel. Although Jia Yan might not return in the future, at least he had left his own footprints in the Tianhe forces. When he becomes stronger, he can occasionally remember Tianhe's power and remember his senior. But he never expected that when the Tianhe power crisis occurred this time, Jia Yan came back again, and happened to be the key point where the 8 powerful opponents of the opponent attacked. Jia Yan was still the daring genius he knew back then. He was the junior he knew. Seeing Jia Yan facing the 8 powerful men, Tianrongguang was very pleased, so he ignored his injuries and stood directly in front of Jia Yan. And he also swore in his heart that as long as he didn't die, Jia Yan would not be harmed at all. But then, something he didn't expect happened. Behind him, in his opinion, the sapling that still needed his protection suddenly changed when the enemy was about to take action. From a small sapling, a little lamb suddenly turned into a big tiger. And he's the kind of big tiger who can't even think of resisting him. In front of this big tiger, all the strong men present seemed to become little lambs. This. Tianrongguang looked at Jia Yan blankly, speechless for a long time. It seemed that Tianrongguang had underestimated this genius, and even now his thoughts were flashing. At that time, he judged that Jia Yan might be the pinnacle of high-level geniuses. At that time, many elders objected. But now it seems that this is not only wrong, but even outrageously wrong. In more than 10 years, he has grown from the venerable he was back then to the level of strength that I can't understand now. At least a top talent? God, I have coached a top genius. He secretly made a decision in his heart. A judgment. But he didn't know that this judgment was wrong again. Of course, his current thoughts represent the thoughts of many people, because in this genius battlefield, the highest level of evaluation that everyone has for a genius is the top genius. A genius that is more terrifying than a top genius, what is that? Boom 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 boom. The universe, which should have been silent, is constantly making loud noises due to the vibrations of the space. This, Jia Yan, you, what on earth are you? In front of Jia Yan, the 8.5-star experts felt an unprecedented terrifying pressure. Several creatures looked in front of them in horror. Although they were much smaller than them, the pressure at this time was far greater than that of Jia Yan. They're horrific creatures. The strength seems to be that of a venerable, but also like a sub-level, but the actual terrifying pressure displayed even exceeds half-star level, faintly causing the world to be oppressed, making several of their high-level talents half-star level. They are unable to move, which is almost unimaginable for the 8 powerful men. That's why the leader of the Northern Regiment asked what Jia Yan was. What am I? Ha! Jia Yan smiled, and then slowly approached these powerful men. Now that he has shown his strength, he no longer cares about the terms of the genius battlefield. He, Jia Yan, can escape from the genius battlefield as long as he kills faster and is promoted to the star level quickly. Because he knew that there would be no high-level star-level beings in charge of genius battlefield officials. Powerful people who have reached the high-level star level are all supreme beings in their respective star fields. It is of course too wasteful to sit in the genius battlefield, so they each return to their own star field. Of course, when the genius battlefield is in trouble, most of them everyone will take action because the genius battlefield is a star field that cultivates their own. Even galaxy-level beings will help the genius battlefield. But that is a very serious situation. If Jia Yan breaks the rules and then escapes, even if the genius battlefield takes action, he will only be the strongest in this star field, that is to say, the strongest mid-level star-level strongman. No matter how strong this kind of strong person is, he is only a little stronger than Huo Ku. Jia Yan, who had already had several head-on battles with Huo Chu, fully believed that after reaching the star level, he would be able to escape the pursuit of powerful men like him. So he is not afraid now. Now that you've started, let's kill. I am someone you cannot afford to offend. Jia Yan smiled, and then thrust out with his front foot. With a strength that reaches pseudo-star level, even an ordinary strike from the front foot cannot be resisted by a group of semi-stars in front of them. Puff! A genius with moderate talent and a half-star level was directly hit by his front foot the moment Jia Yan finished speaking. Then the brainwave power exploded along the front feet, that all-powerful middle-level genius actually exploded with his entire body and turned into blood mist. This, you can't even see it, run away. Those 8 powerful men, no, there are only 7 powerful men left now. Seeing that Jia Yan actually killed an accomplice who came with him in an instant, his heart trembled, and there was only fear in his eyes, and he did not dare to do anything anymore. Resist, but want to scatter and escape. Want to escape? Can you escape? The next moment, an astonishing light flashed in Jia Yan's eyes, and then his brainwave power moved. Buzz! The heaven and earth suddenly contracted, as if they were solidified. Ah! Control power, you, why do you have control power that only stars have? Thanks to the book friend Ken classmate for the 1000 tips, and also to Look 000, Agora, Lewis Huang, and other brothers for their tips. Thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1195. The 8 masters all felt like they were in a dream. A being who thought he was a junior suddenly took off his disguise and suddenly transformed into a tiger from the junior, trying to devour them all. This brainwave power was actually accompanied by the power of control, which completely suppressed all 8 of them, making them almost unable to move. No. This is not about controlling power. I can still move and escape. The big leader of the Northern Regiment felt that his body was stagnant, but he was still barely able to move. He suddenly knew that Jia Yan was not using control power, and of course it was still not something he could deal with. At this time, he reluctantly ran forward with all his strength. But when he had moved less than 100 kilometers, Jia Yan's figure stepped into the subspace while maintaining the suppression of brainwave power. It was like teleporting and came to the side of the big leader in an instant. Your Majesty, Senior Chief, didn't you look down on me just now? Why are you in such a hurry to leave now? Why don't you stay and give me, this junior, a good education? Jia Yan spoke to him calmly. Get out of here. The big leader was full of evil intent at this time, and murderous intent suddenly appeared in his eyes. Anyway, he also knew that things couldn't get better today, so it was better to resist to the end. He has a clear understanding in his heart, that is, he will not die. It's not that Jia Yan can't kill him, but just like he can't kill Tian Rongguang, he firmly believes that Jia Yan doesn't dare to kill him. Because he is an almost peak high-level talent at the semi-star level. As long as he is given a little more opportunity, he can reach the star level. Such a genius is treated as a treasure in the battlefield. Compared with Tian Rongguang, a high-level talent who has just been promoted not long ago. Even half-star level is much more valuable. If Jia Yan dares to kill him, he will definitely be severely punished by Genius Battlefield. But his perception this time was completely wrong. Jia Yan had already planned that even if he killed this group of people, he would be able to reach the star level before the official warriors from the battlefield arrived. And if he reached the star level, then he would not be afraid of the geniuses in the battlefield. The vast majority of star level experts. At least there is no big problem in escaping. Tell me to get out? Very good, Senior, you are the first genius with real backbone that I have encountered in the genius battlefield for so long. Jia Yan smiled. What he said was right. The geniuses in the battlefield, at least the ones he met, all wanted to escape when the battle situation was unfavorable, and they even did not hesitate to say soft words about it. But the leader of the Northern Regiment was not like this, which made Jia Yan somewhat admired. But I admire him, because the murderous intention in his heart has not cooled down at all. Since your bones are so hard, I'll give you a good one. After he finished speaking, he moved his front feet slightly. What? The leader of the Northern Regiment never thought that Jia Yan would actually dare to take action, and this move looked like it was going to take his life. You dare? Puff. His demeanor changed drastically, and he just yelled two words, but he only heard a soft and crisp sound that penetrated his ears, and then he froze. He saw that the front foot penetrated his chest directly at a speed that he could not see clearly. This dignified and highly talented semi-star genius looked at his chest in disbelief. In fact, he was about to reach the critical moment of impacting the star. This time he wanted to cooperate with the Tianhe force in this adventure. He wanted to swallow up the Tianhe force's territory and then sell it to a nearby force at a high price to prepare himself with promotion materials. But he didn't expect that at the critical moment, a bad guy like Jia Yan would appear, and what he didn't expect was that Jia Yan would actually dare to kill him. You. He opened his eyes and finally showed a hint of pleading, don't, please, don't. As a being who has almost reached the star level, he is not willing to die because becoming a star is something that countless geniuses and strong men dream of. For him, he even wants to wait until he becomes a star, return to his mother's power, and show off his pride to his relatives and friends. He really doesn't want to die. Late. Jia Yan was unmoved, but the power of his brain waves suddenly moved. Puff. Then in the starry sky, a line of flesh and blood exploded directly. Jia Yan, who didn't even blink when killing a pseudo-stellar level, had no sympathy for the high-level genius in front of him. After all, the opponent was a creature from the Dark Realm. He didn't know how many geniuses he had killed. This kind of existence was not worth sparing. Jia Yan, you dare to kill the big leader, you are finished. Even if you are a top genius, there will definitely be someone from the genius battlefield official coming to punish you, you are finished. The remaining 7 half-star geniuses who came with the leader of the Northern Regiment saw that Jia Yan actually killed the leader of the Northern Regiment, who was the most powerful and the most terrifyingly gifted among them. They all were so straightforward and shocked at his strength. And my heart was trembling. They roared fiercely one by one, trying to scare Jia Yan with their reputation as a genius battlefield. But their idea obviously won't be effective. I don't know whether I will be punished, but I know that you will definitely be finished today. Jia Yan said lightly, and then started a series of rapid movements. Puff 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 puff. Next, in the eyes of Tian Rongguang and Tianhe forces, the genius creatures, the 8 powerful men who they regarded as unstoppable actually had no resistance at all, and died in front of them one by one. Even Jia Yan did this without any hesitation. It seemed that killing so many powerful men was like killing an ordinary venerable, without even considering whether he would be punished. These are the 8 powerful men we regarded as our formidable enemies before. In front of Jia Yan, they don't even have the power to resist. And, Jia Yan really dares to kill them. An elder looked at Jia Yan's calm killing, and then smiled bitterly in disbelief. They thought that the crisis of a narrow escape was actually resolved so easily without any trouble due to the explosion of Jia Yan's strength. As the last explosion sounded, the unwilling roar of the last highly gifted half-star dark domain powerhouse suddenly stopped. None of the 8 powerful men who came to make trouble survived and were completely killed by Jia Yan. Okay, Senior Tian Rongguang, Elder Tian Tisu, and all the elders and seniors, you see, I don't need to call MOK to solve the problem. Do you think this is okay? Do you need me to go to the Dark Realm now? Uproot their power. Jia Yan's calm voice brought the senior leaders of the Tianhe forces, who were almost stunned by the scene before them, back to reality from the shock. No, 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 Jia Yan, you have done too much. If you continue to kill, the war zone officials will hold you accountable. Tian Rongguang hurriedly waved his paws, not daring to let Jia Yan continue to kill. He fully believed that Jia Yan dared to kill even a semi-star high-level being like the leader of the Northern Regiment. What else could Jia Yan not dare to kill? Yes, Jia Yan, now hurry up and find the official senior management to explain. We have recorded everything here with the recorder. You are right, and your talent is definitely more than twice as strong as them. Genius Battlefield, the official will definitely not convict you of a felony. That's right, turn yourself in quickly, otherwise things will be even more troublesome. One by one, the elders began to persuade Jia Yan. Although they had seen how terrifying Jia Yan was, they had abided by the rules of the battlefield to their core. At this time, instead of praising Jia Yan's strength, they wanted Jia Yan to surrender immediately. Whether I want to surrender or not, I will make arrangements for myself later, but it is really inconvenient for me to stay in the Tianhe force now, so as not to inconvenience you. Come, let's go down and sit down while there is still time, and then I will leave. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. The reaction of the top leaders of the Tianhe forces had long been in his calculations. It was not because they wanted to betray him, but because everyone obeyed the rules of the genius battlefield in a subtle way. He killed him. It is a serious crime for the leader of the Northern Regiment to wait for several high-level talents of half a star level. It is normal for them to persuade Jia Yan to surrender. At this time, the top leaders of the Tianhe forces were all frightened and anxious. Jia Yan refused to surrender. To them, he was like Monkey's son who had violated the rules of heaven but refused to serve his sentence. It was too deviant. Even Tian Rongguang is like this. Jia Yan, do you still want to escape? This is really not possible. The entire genius battlefield is so big. Where can you escape? You must know that there are many battlefield officials in the genius battlefield. As for the stellar powerhouses, they usually just don't interfere in the affairs of the geniuses. If you commit such a big thing, they will definitely come forward, and your crime will definitely be even greater. Senior Tian Rongguang, I will really consider surrendering. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Returning to the main star of the Tianhe force, the entire main star was still so quiet that one could hear a needle. Of course, this is an exaggerated metaphor, but it is really not too much to describe it. You must know that the scene in the starry sky simply exceeded the expectations of all living creatures. In the genius battlefield, the top level of geniuses is half-star level. However, when top-level half-star talents rarely take action, high-level talents at half-star level are almost all in the entire genius battlefield. It is the most top-notch existence in the world. But when the 3 high-level half-star powerhouses in the dark domain appeared in the Tianhe force, everyone originally thought that the Tianhe force was doomed this time, but they did not expect that the super genius of the genius battlefield who disappeared 10 years ago would, it actually appeared at this time. What I didn't even expect was that the super genius Jia Yan, who everyone thought would take 100 years at the earliest to become a prodigy, was actually easily killed, including the 3 high-level geniuses and semi-star level beings. The 8 major invading enemies. This is the legendary most terrifying genius in the history of our Tianhe forces, Lord Jia Yan. Not only is our Tianhe force the most terrifying, but with his current strength, even the top geniuses can't compare to him. This is too exaggerated. In the past 10 years, it has been difficult to defeat high-level geniuses at the venerable level, and now it is easy to kill even half-star level experts with high talents. How does he practice? It's like riding a rocket. Quick! You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1196. Jia Yan's strength has improved so fast, which is a huge attraction for any genius. After all, who doesn't want to be like Jia Yan, who can reach such terrifying strength faster than riding a rocket in 10 years? Lewin Novel Network. Of course, Jia Yan would not say that his improved strength was due to his status as an evolved beast, but he would find an excuse to shirk the fact that he had used certain methods left to him by MOK in the previous battle. Of course, whether you want to believe this or not, it's someone else's problem. At least Jia Yan's words show that he is unwilling to say it. Could it be that the top leaders of the Tianhe forces still have the idea of coercion by force? Even if there is, he must have that strength. After seeing the previous scene, who would dare to take action? Okay, Senior Tian Rongguang, and all the elders, please don't ask me any more questions. The more you know, the more trouble you will have in the future. In short, you believe that I at least have a good impression of you. If anything happens in the future, you can come to me for anything. Jia Yan spoke calmly to a group of senior Tianhe Power officials around him in the meeting hall of the main star of Tianhe Power. Then he looked at the sky and felt an unusual force that seemed to be slowly approaching, and then his expression suddenly changed. Okay, it's time for me to leave. Xiao is my friend. I hope you treat her well. Goodbye. After saying that, Jia Yan quickly entered the subspace, and then disappeared from the detection range. He's leaving now? And he's so straightforward and carefree. Tian Rongguang and other powerful men left just like that when they saw Jia Yan. They didn't say anything more, and they didn't ask for any reward from the Tianhe forces. They just left like this. Each of them felt a little sigh in their hearts. Maybe a truly strong person must be so free and easy to be qualified. Xiao, who was behind the senior executives, couldn't help but blush when she heard that Jia Yan actually mentioned her before leaving. To Jia Yan, Xiao was really just a chance encounter, but after staying together for a long time, she sincerely respected and served Jia Yan later on, so she also said a word to her. Of course, this sentence can definitely greatly enhance Xiao's power status in Tianhe. A group of Tianhe force creatures here felt extremely emotional about Jia Yan's arrival and departure, but he soon knew the real reason for Jia Yan's departure. Because less than half an hour after he left, a terrifying star-level power covered the starry sky. Huh? The leader of the northern group actually died here, and I also detected a power of more than half a star. Tell me, what happened? The owner of the voice didn't seem so happy, and his demeanor changed slightly when he felt that the 8 dead experts actually had 3 high-level talents at half a star level. He is the star-level manager of this starry sky, and the area he controls includes the dark area including the Baituan forces. What made him look uncomfortable at this time was that he allowed Baituan and other dark domain forces to exist because powerful geniuses could always appear in the dark domain, and even star-level people were more likely to appear than in other places. In recent years, he has been most optimistic about the leader of the Northern Regiment. Unexpectedly, as soon as he noticed something was wrong and rushed over using Genius Battlefield's unique method of deploying in the central star area, he discovered the death of the leader of the Northern Regiment. Tell me, who did this, and the guy who did it used a power that was more than half a star level. This is a taboo in my genius battlefield. I must investigate thoroughly. He faced a group of Tianhe forces creatures and asked calmly. For him, the death of the leader of the North Regiment means that the star level he has cultivated in his control area is gone, and the expected battlefield rewards are gone. This also affects him for the star level. His strength has improved, so he was extremely angry at this time. What? It was Jia Yan who made the move. Didn't he become a master 10 years ago? How could he kill the leader of the Northern Regiment and others? After hearing the testimony of Tian Rongguang and other Tianhe power officials, this stellar powerhouse almost jumped to his feet. He had heard of Jia Yan's name more than 10 years ago. After all, as the manager of this area, he would still pay attention to the emergence of such a famous venerable genius. Of course, Jia Yan's strength was still too low at the beginning. Even if his talent seemed good, he didn't know how long it would take until he became a star, so he paid a little attention to it, especially when he learned that Jia Yan disappeared later, so he gave up. Paid attention to him. Unexpectedly, he would hear news about Jia Yan again at this time. What shocked him even more was that in just 10 years, Jia Yan was able to kill 8.5 star level creatures. Moreover, among the 8.5 stars, there are still 3 with high talents. Even if he did not use his own strength to achieve this kind of terrifying strength, there will definitely be some adventure. In 10 years, he was able to kill even half-star level talents with high talents. Even if he used special means, he was definitely not an ordinary person. It seems that my judgment of him 10 years ago was definitely wrong. Maybe this guy Yan will be a top-notch genius. In this case, if I can urge him to achieve star level and be included in my control area, the reward I will receive may be even greater. Thinking that Jia Yan's talent might be top-notch, the eyes of this star-level powerhouse lit up. Then he actually put aside his hatred for Jia Yan, and quickly asked the direction of Jia Yan's departure from the Tianhe force. With a movement of his body, he used the official special movement method of Genius Battlefield to quickly pursue him. The central star area of the Genius Battlefield is like a core interest area for the Genius Battlefield. Fast movement methods that do not appear in other places can be found in almost every place in this star area. What Jia Yan didn't know was that he used his space talent to buy a small warship that flew in subspace at a speed that was actually slower than that of the stellar powerhouse, and was slowly approached by the opponent. If he knew, he would definitely sigh. It was okay that an official star-level expert was chasing him before, but now another one appears. What is this? Jia Yan still wants to practice hard in Tingtian Pavilion and quickly become a star. However, he has no way out at this time. The Tianhe forces are not too far away from the main star of Tingtian Pavilion. Before the other party comes, there may be a chance to become a star. Then he won't be too afraid. Tingtian Pavilion. I haven't heard of it. According to the people from Tingtian Pavilion, their leader Mok will return in the near future, and he will appear in his true form. Real appearance. Could it be that the former Mok was not his true appearance? I don't know what it means anymore. It seems that most people in Tingtian Pavilion don't know what it means. The source of the news is Miss Zibala, whom Mok is optimistic about. I guess she can't be wrong. It turns out to be Miss Zibala. She was the one who kept the news of Master Mok's departure well before. She should be right, but Master Mok has actually left Tingtian Pavilion for more than 10 years. We never knew about it, and they still paid tribute to Tingtian Pavilion every year without noticing it for 10 years. They are so powerful. Stop complaining. Didn't you hear that Mok is coming back? If people dare to say it, it means they are not afraid of the news causing public outrage. Maybe they want to use this news to see if any force dares to jump out and accuse. Let's not come on. Tingtian Pavilion, as the dark realm where the disciple group's forces were located, has many huge forces in it. Compared with the dark realm of Tianhe forces, it is even more chaotic here. However, in the past 10 years or so, the forces in this dark area have had an ironclad rule. That is not to provoke the Tingtian Pavilion, a new force that has just been established for less than 10 years. The reason is very simple, that is the founder of Tingtian Pavilion, named Mok. Mok's name has long been resounding throughout the Central Star region due to his battle with the disciples, even in other star regions. Even if there are rumors that his true strength is only at the sub-level level, that's all, it all relies on the deterrent power of his man-made black hole. However, the fact that Mok single-handedly killed a group of semi-star level experts was real, and he did not even use the power of the black hole. For the entire dark territory, this was no less than the strongest ones in the dark territory. Therefore, no one is willing to antagonize Tingtian Pavilion with Mok in charge until there is no big conflict of interests. And just recently, rumors began to spread throughout the dark territory, saying that Mok, who had not been seen for a long time, turned out not to have been in seclusion for 10 years as outsiders thought, but to go to other star regions. At this time, he was still close to return. When hearing this news, the dark force that was most shocked was a force composed entirely of female creatures. The name of this force is Night Flower, the flower of the night, which is in line with the metaphor of female creatures forming a force in the dark realm. Find the book Garden. Mok, this guy actually went to the outside world. I asked him how he could be so quiet after all these years. I don't know if he will cause another bloody storm when he comes back this time. No, our Yahuwah forces had plotted against him back then. We have been afraid of his revenge all these years. I thought he had given up on revenge, but I didn't expect that he was going out. If you haven't returned yet, you will definitely cause trouble for us when you return this time. Within the Yahuwah force, more than a dozen high-level leaders of the Yahuwah force, who had reached the semi-star level, gathered together to discuss the news about Jia Yan. The strongest among them is only half-star level with medium talent, but no force in this dark realm dares to underestimate the Yahuwah force, because their real strength lies not in their own strength, but in their cooperation with various people. The high-level and high-level marriages of powerful people create a huge network of interpersonal relationships. That's right, with Mok's character, he will never let us go easily. This time he returns with a high profile, and his strength must have improved. He even made such a high profile just to remind his former enemies. Mok wants to come back for revenge. So we are here at night. The flower power has to be guarded against. Please subscribe to the original version, thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1197. Okay, sisters, let's contact the sisters who got married and use our network. This time we might as well take advantage of him before he returns and destroy his lair in Tingtian Pavilion first, break his leg, and then focus on it. Will be easier to deal with him with energy. Yeah, sister leader is right. Let's go and do it now. The Yahuwah forces were busy, but Jia Yan didn't know that this force, whose name he had almost forgotten, was actually plotting against him again. If he knew, Jia Yan would probably feel speechless. However, Jia Yan, who was traveling quickly, didn't know that he had such a little trouble waiting for him ahead. What he was thinking about was the genius of the official star-level expert in the battlefield who was following behind him that day, and another star-level expert who had been following him since the edge of the battle zone. There were too many troubles, but what Jia Yan probably never expected was that another even bigger trouble, one that might even cost him his life, was slowly coming from a distant place. Outside the genius battlefield, a strange and huge battleship slowly approached. Who is it? Trespassing into the genius battlefield is a capital offense. A huge horse-shaped monster appeared in front of the huge battleship. This monster has a ferocious appearance, reaching a terrifying figure of 5 kilometers in size. On its surface, there is a vague power that can cause the heaven and earth to roar. Without looking, anyone can tell that he is a star-level creature of the Genius Battle Domain official. Wow, who is that person? He actually dares to enter the Genius battlefield without queuing up with us. His battleship doesn't look like it is official from the Genius battlefield. He is so brave. Yes, he will definitely be killed by that official senior later. You must know that the majesty of the Genius battlefield is not something that ordinary strong men can bully at will. A group of applicants were queuing up at the entrance of the Genius battlefield, waiting to enter the Genius battlefield. They were all watching the scene with excitement, mocking the battleship that did not understand the rules. But the next scene made them all surprised. Don't be nervous, Junior. I am also a star-level warrior who came out of the Genius battlefield. This is my student ID, please take a look. Inside the huge battleship, a gentle voice came out, and then a light and shadow like a business card appeared in mid-air. Huh, the horse-like creature was slightly surprised, and then took the card like light. It turns out to be the senior who walked out 300 years ago. I'm sorry for the senior. You have the right to return to school. The Genius battlefield welcomes you back. Please come in. He suddenly changed his attitude, and his expression was even slightly respectful. Release. What's going on? It was actually allowed. Hello, did I hear it correctly? That senior actually called the other party senior? Doesn't it mean that the other party is a star-level strongman who has gone out into the Genius battlefield, and for 300 years, maybe he is also a strong mid-star player? Wow, the Genius battlefield is the Genius battlefield. When we first arrived, we were able to see 2 star-level experts, and one of them was an old senior who returned to school. It is really completely different from the backward star areas over there. The entire entrance to the Genius battlefield was filled with excitement, and every applicant who had not yet entered the Genius battlefield felt that it was an eye-opener. As for the huge battleship that slowly entered the Genius battlefield, the horse monster bowed its head and left after entering the Genius battlefield. Sir, you said you would come back to visit the forces you were with before, but they actually believed it. Haha, that's so stupid. Inside the battleship, an arrogant voice was flattering. Oh, they will naturally believe it. Moreover, stars like ours who have stepped out are external supporters for the Genius battlefield. As long as they do not wreak havoc in the Genius battlefield, even if they kill 1 or 2 geniuses, Genius battlefield always turns a blind eye. That gentle thing answered him. I see, then it seems that this is the case for the Genius battlefield. I thought they would have such a thing as teacher ethics for the sake of genius. Teacher's morality? In any case, self-interest is still the main thing in this universe. Genius battlefield is not a benefactor. How can they do Genius battlefield without any benefit? Okay, now let's get started and find out about Jia Yan. It turns out that the owner of that gentle voice came to the Genius battlefield for Jia Yan. And if you listen carefully to this voice, you can tell that he is actually the strongest enemy Jia Yan encountered in the biochemical star territory a few months ago. Live channel. This powerful master wasted no time and chased the Genius battlefield by himself. Jia Yan, who was in the central star region, didn't know that in addition to a few official star-level pursuits, he also had a more terrifying enemy who was also pursuing him. You have to know that being found by an official star level can only force you to ask some secrets, but if you are caught by a living channel, you will definitely not die or lose your skin. It's almost time to arrive at Tingtian Pavilion. I didn't expect that I would be away for so long, and this power that I had built so casually would become my home when I returned. Things in the world are really so magical. Jia Yan flew the battleship all the way to a place not far from the dark area where Tingtian Pavilion was located, and at the same time felt a little emotional in his heart. He just built Tingtian Pavilion haphazardly to collect some supplies, but he never expected that 10 years later, Tingtian Pavilion was still operating well without him, and even became a place where he could go when he returned. This can't help but make people sigh. Sir, we are in some trouble. Just as Jia Yan was approaching the place of darkness, suddenly, a communication sound was transmitted to the battleship that Jia Yan was currently driving. Jia Yan bought this battleship casually, and he still had some financial resources. However, because the battleship was ordinary, the communication effect was average. So when we arrived close to the dark area, we received the communication from Ziba. What's the trouble? Jia Yan asked curiously. It's all my fault. I promoted the news of your lord's return before. I originally thought that no force would dare to cause trouble, but I didn't expect that it actually had the opposite effect. Several major forces in the Dark Realm have formed an alliance due to the entanglement of the Yehua forces. I heard that Tianj is coming, sir. What should we do? Listening to Zibala's words, Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, and then thought about it for a long time before he remembered which force the Yehua force was. Is that a force composed of female creatures? It's really troublesome, Ziba. See if you can block it for a while. Even if you use words to delay it for a few hours, I will be back soon. What will happen then? The problems won't be problems, you believe me. Okay, I'll give it a try. Zibala seemed helpless. After hearing Jia Yan's words, she wanted to hang up the communication. No, wasn't there a clone of me before? Help me activate it, maybe it can have some effect. Under Jia Yan's prompting, Zibala hesitated and activated the clone that Jia Yan had possessed before. Jia Yan quickly flew out of his spirit and reached the clone. Even so, Zibala only felt that this clone could at most facilitate their conversation and sharing of experiences. After all, the clone's strength was only at the second level. She didn't think that a second-level clone without any equipment could play any role in the battle. Effect. And not long after Jia Yan activated his clone, a loud and earth-shaking sound resounded outside the main star of Tingtian Pavilion. Coming. So fast. It must be coming soon. These guys know that Master Moke is coming back, and they all want to defeat us before he comes. In this way, even if Master Moke comes back, he will become a duckweed without roots. I'm curious, why are they not afraid of Lord Moke's black hole battle? But now is not the time to think so much, let's face the enemy first. A group of Tingtian Pavilion creatures moved quickly to meet the enemies in the sky. Don't be afraid to face the enemy. Master Moke will return soon. As long as we hold on, they will die by then. Jia Yan controlled the metallic clone and walked out of the factory with Zibala. Then Jia Yan Yuki. He was not surprised by the war in the starry sky above his head, but was surprised that the main planet of Tingtian Pavilion at this time was completely different from the small planet in his memory. In 10 years, the main star of Tingtian Pavilion has transformed from a small, desolate planet into a bustling and prosperous place with numerous high-rise buildings everywhere. There is even a building that reaches a height of 10,000 meters, like a row of tall peaks on the planet. Moreover, in addition to the extremely prosperous main star of Tingtian Pavilion, 3 auxiliary stars were transported at some time. Each one is about the same size as the main star. The above is also extremely prosperous, which makes Jia Yan even wonder. The Tingtian Pavilion force back then had really become a big force at this time. Although it is not as good as those giant forces that Jia Yan has seen, but this is a place he built with his own hands, and it is now like this, which still makes him feel a sense of pride in his heart. However, Jia Yan quickly stopped looking at his surroundings and looked towards the sky. Ziba, you designed these defense facilities, you are awesome. When Jia Yan looked at the sky where the battle took place, he saw a defensive net in the starry sky, with defensive rays and light waves from time to time, completely blocking more than 3,000 warships from the outside world, although occasionally fish slip through the net. Entering through the net shows how terrifying the defensive net is. Sir, I haven't completely built this defense network yet. It can only protect against them for a while, but it cannot protect them forever, especially for strong people. This defense network is almost useless. You'd better come back as soon as possible. When Zibala saw that Jia Yan beside him still looked like it had nothing to do with him, he was not angry at all. She even wondered if Jia Yan would stop listening to the Tianj force after seeing the size of the other party. After all, this group of coalition warships has reached more than 3,000, and among them, there are 3 of them with half-star level talents. According to secret information, there are 3 of them. Under such circumstances, it is a normal choice for Jia Yan to give up on them. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1198. Well, I'm on my way, don't worry. Novel. Hearing Zibala's request, Jia Yan answered unhurriedly. The tone of these words almost made Zibala's anger level soar. We are fighting for you, okay. You are actually still here. Of course, looking back and thinking about it carefully, Jia Yan has not been in Tingtian Pavilion for more than 10 years, and she has not used many of Tingtian Pavilion's resources. Even the biggest resource consumption point has been on her research. Think about it this way, Zibala also felt a little guilty. Fortunately, although Jia Yan's words sounded careless, what he said next still made her feel heartwarming. You don't have to worry about those strong men's problems for now, I will find a solution, Jia Yan said calmly. Okay, hey, that's not right. What can you think of? Just when Zibala was saying this, at the same time, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the defense net she designed herself, following several battleships and breaking through. Haha, come in. Let me just say, this Tingtian Pavilion's defense network has no plan to deal with semi-star powerhouses, it is just a half-finished product. That's right, let's make a contribution first. The 2 half-star level experts were both moderately gifted and half-star level geniuses. After entering the defense network, the 4 Tingtian Pavilion stars inside were directly exposed to each other's eyes, almost as if they were undefended. Sir, it's over. Although we, Tingtian Pavilion, have invited several moderately talented and semi-star level experts in the past 10 years, they are definitely not willing to take action in this situation. What should we do now? Sibila stood on the main star and almost jumped to her feet. She was too nervous. She didn't care about other things. She didn't even care about the life and death of her subordinates. But on the main planet of Tingtian Pavilion, she had 10 years of research results. If they were destroyed, she would not care. I want to hit him to death. Heh, you may have forgotten something. Jia Yan smiled, I said I would deal with these strong men, now let me show you. He smiled, and then the brainwave power of the metal clone instantly increased. It looked like it was just barely reaching the 2nd level, but in an instant, it was steadily entering the 2nd level. And under the power of this brainwave, a large piece of sand and stone squirmed underground on an ancient stone building on the main star. Suddenly, this piece of sand and stone exploded instantly. Boom! As if responding to each other, the metal clone rose up with a sub-level aura. Under the hall, a sub-level aura also appeared. Zibala stared at the metal clone next to her in stunned silence. As a maker, she knew very well that the peak endurance of her work was the level in front of her. If she strengthened it, it would burst the metal clone, so she when charging before, it was only half of the energy. But now this clone suddenly surged in endless power from nowhere, reaching almost the threshold in an instant, and stopped just before the threshold. In other words, this power instantly made the metal clone, achieving the highest combat power this body can achieve. Oh my god, Zibala was shocked. She didn't know that the things she made actually had properties that she didn't even know about. Of course, this principle is a special energy transmission method that Jia Yan himself understood after using the clone for so long. What is transmitted to the metal clone at this time is the power of the body. Of course, Zibala will not know where the power comes from. It's coming. As for the second-level power person who appeared in the hall of the main Starstone house of Tingtian Pavilion, it was another person that almost all living creatures had forgotten, a person who was equally all-powerful with Jia Yan. He is another sub-level biological clone of Jia Yan. Originally, if Jia Yan left the clone controlled by the brain worm too far away, he would not be able to control the clone. But now Jia Yan uses the brainwave power to enter the metal clone. As a result, he can control it through the connection of the metal clone. Get on this clone. In other words, there are actually two Jia Yan clones here at this time. Even if these two clones are only at the second level, with his combat power and combat experience, what about the second level clones? Buzz. The two semi-star level experts who rushed into the defense network were about to rush into a nearby Tingtian Pavilion star. Just when their ferocious smiles were still hanging on their faces, they were about to blast out energy to a city on the star. A subspace suddenly opened and suddenly appeared in front of these two creatures. What? These two powerful men were shocked and turned pale almost instantly. Everyone knows that MOK, the master of Tingtian Pavilion, is proud of his space talent. At this time, a space crack appears. Could it be that MOK has returned? Even these two powerful men knew that MOK was only at the second level back then. The shadow of the pleasant famous tree and the power of MOK were beyond their imagination. At this time, their faces were extremely frightened. And just after the crack in the space appeared, two figures stepped out of the space one after another. This sight made them calm down again. Not MOK. After carefully distinguishing the faces of the two creatures, they all took a long breath in unison. Be careful, that muscular creature is the Bai Wangfu who was famous with MOK back then. Although he is only a second pass, his actual combat power is definitely able to deal with a medium-talented semi-star creature. One of the two mid-talented half-stars suddenly looked solemnly at the muscle-bound creature among the two secondary-level creatures that appeared. What? He is the legendary Bai Wangfu. Another medium-talented half-star creature suddenly did not dare to look down upon the two sub-level creatures in front of it. Just as Mok's name spread, his right-hand man, the seemingly extremely cold-blooded Bai Wangfu, also became famous along with Mok. Back then, although his performance was not as exaggerated as Mok, he was still real. The whole starry sky was amazed. You must know that a sub-level battle with a medium talent and a half-star level can only be achieved by at least high-level talent. Even ordinary existences in high-level talent are unlikely to be able to do it. Maybe this is better than Huangfu, who is a top genius. Possible. The metal monster that appears together with Baiarafu may not be an ordinary existence, so be careful. The two mid-level talents of half-star level immediately knew that they had met their opponents and gave up their plan to continue attacking the Tingtian Pavilion. Instead, they turned to attack the two sub-level creatures that suddenly appeared from the space. Oh, are the two mid-level talents half-star level? Jia Yan was controlling two clones at the same time. Although he felt uncomfortable at the moment, he had long experience in controlling clones, so he didn't make a fool of himself. In front of him, two medium-talented and half-star level attacks were coming. He glanced at them lightly, then directly controlled the two clones and headed towards them. Bold. In the past, even if MOK was in front of him, he had to rely on dodge and black hole tactics to fight across levels. Now you two dare to fly in front of him, you are simply looking for death. That's right, you dare to underestimate us, then go to hell. The two half-star level creatures were absolutely furious. Although they looked up to Baiarafu very much, but now they actually saw Baiarafu and the metal creatures around him, flying directly towards them without avoiding it, as if they wanted to fight them head-on. This made these two geniuses confused. The strong man was extremely angry. In the past, if Jia Yan wanted to win a cross-level battle, he would either use black hole tactics or use subspace talents to fight and escape. But now it's good, Two major sub-levels are actually facing two mid-level talents and half-star levels. This is too arrogant in the eyes of any strong person. Haha, those two guys are looking for death. I thought the existence that suddenly appeared in Tingtian Pavilion would be some amazing backup plan, but it turns out they are just two brainless sub-level fools. So I have long said that there is only one powerful person in Tingtian Pavilion, MOK. What happens now? You must have been right. As long as these two sub-levels are killed, we can then use the defense, find the loopholes in the net and send more strong men in. When the strong men destroy their defense center, the next step will be the battleship massacre. Yes, these two guys will definitely die soon. Let's prepare for a surprise attack. One by one, the dark domain experts outside the defense net looked at the scene in front of them, grinning ferociously and getting ready to continue their intrusion. They are all waiting. After the two sub-levels are defeated, they can rush in quickly. They can enter through the loophole of Tingtian Pavilion defense network that cannot effectively defend the strong. As long as the center is destroyed, they can then use warships to intercept it and massacre. A group of strong men, as well as countless ordinary creatures, watched as two pairs of strong men, who seemed to have obvious strength, started fighting. Under the spotlight, the muscular creature Bai Wangfu, who took the initiative to fight, faced the medium-talented and semi-star powerhouse who came first at a faster speed than the metal creatures around him. Puff! In the starry sky, a sound that shook the space actually erupted. The whole bulging muscles of the muscle clone collided with the opponent's disproportionately huge claws, and then on the fist, the whole muscle seemed to explode, bang 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 bang. No one would think that he could survive such a confrontation. But then, a scene happened that made the spectators unbelievable. The metal sub-level creature following behind suddenly increased its speed at the moment when the two sides collided. It passed by Wangfu, and a sharp front foot pierced into the person who was fighting Bai Wangfu in an instant. In the eyes of a medium-talented half-star creature. This scene happened so fast that it was impossible to see clearly, and the two sub-level creatures also cooperated so tacitly, as if they had practiced it countless times before the battle. Stellar-level experts teamed up to severely injure him. But this is not over yet. It seems that this scene has been expected for a long time. Before the scream of the half-star creature ended, the muscle-bound Bai Wangfu actually mentioned it again at the moment when the opponent's eye had just been stabbed. His other fist turned into a finger and thrust out with one finger. This finger contained huge power and pierced into the head of the half-star creature with medium talent whose defense had disappeared. The screams suddenly stopped. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1199. I'm extremely sorry, the name of the Night Flower Force was wrong earlier. It should be the Red-Pink Force. It has been changed. This medium-talented, semi-star level creature, unexpectedly died suddenly with the help of two sub-level creatures. The entire starry sky suddenly fell into deathly silence. The medium-talented and semi-star level creatures on the other side who were preparing to fight had just seen the enemy actually join forces and were ready to come to support, but the scene that suddenly happened in front of them made the supporting body suddenly freeze. Then retreat crazily. What? These two sub-levels joined forces and were able to kill a mid-level talent and half-star level in an instant? What kind of cooperation is this? What kind of sub-level is this? Even Bai Wangfu is a famous genius, but the metal monster on the other side doesn't look like a normal creature. So powerful, this. Everyone inside and outside the battle circle was completely shocked by the scene that happened in front of them, especially the group of geniuses who were preparing to also enter the defense circle. At this time, their footsteps suddenly froze, and they almost didn't dare to take another step. They were all looking to see whether the two sublevels were just lucky enough to complete the cooperation, or whether they really had such a powerful combination. Of course, the two secondary level clones controlled by Jia Yan naturally cooperated very smoothly at this time, and it was not luck at all. Moreover, his strength already exceeds all the creatures here, especially at the mid-level and half-star level. At this time, even if he is controlling two sub-level clones, under the control of his strength, his moves during the battle are all directed at him. The key points, and the combination of 2 and 2, can cause the effect of killing the enemy in an instant, which is not an incredible thing. This, Master Jia Yan can easily kill a mid-level and half-star genius with two sub-level clones. Ziba La, who was on the main star of Tingtian Pavilion, also stared. She had long known that the Bai Wangfu was also a clone of Jia Yan, but it was restricted and different from ordinary clones. But no matter how she thought about it, she would never have thought that Jia Yan could easily kill a half-star with medium talent by relying only on the muscle clone and the metal clone he made that was equivalent to a sub-level creature. You know, that is a medium-talented half-star level creature, let alone a sub-level genius. Even a low-level half-star level strong person can be killed with 1 or 2 moves. It seems that Mr. Jia Yan has reached a level that I can't even imagine, otherwise he wouldn't have turned decay into magic. Zibala smiled bitterly when he thought of this. She is not sure now whether what she has studied for 10 years in Tingtian Pavilion will be helpful to Jia Yan. After all, she thought that Jia Yan was not strong enough, so she studied that thing that she is working on now. If Jia Yan is so powerful that even that thing can't help her much, so her 10 years have been wasted. She was thinking about her thoughts here, but the fierce battle in space was still continuing. Especially behind the escaping mid-talented half-star genius, Jia Yan's 2 clones, almost as soon as they killed the previous 1.5 star, started to speed up directly towards the mid-level half-star genius. Strong man, pursue him. How dare you chase me? The mid-level and half-star genius felt the 2 geniuses chasing him from behind. Although he was not as fast as him, there was a defensive net around him that was constantly attacking him. Even after dodging, his speed was also he couldn't get up quickly, and he was about to be slowly caught up by 2 sub-levels. You were able to join forces to kill Nakagwa before, you must have taken advantage of him when he was not prepared. If you chase him again, don't blame me for being ruthless. This mid-level talent and half-star level powerhouse is now full of evil, especially the previous scene. Looking back now, he feels that it should not be possible no matter how much he thinks about it. 2 sub-level creatures can jointly kill a medium-level talent in an instant. A half-star powerhouse? This is simply something that would only happen in a dream. Therefore, he firmly believed that the Kagwa who was traveling with him before was definitely lost during the battle, otherwise he would never have been easily killed. It's impossible to escape at this time anyway, so why not face the enemy head-on? He turned his head and attacked directly towards the 2 pursuing sub-levels. Well done. Jia Yan's 2 clones moved as if telepathically, avoiding each other's impact at the same time. Hey, why can you dodge, and both of them can avoid my collision? The medium-talented half-star creature was slightly shocked. Normally, a normal sub-level creature, let alone dodging his collision, would be able to make the opponent die and explode with just one look from him, but now he bumped into it without any reservation, and even the fur of these 2 sub-level creatures was completely wiped out. Didn't hit one. In fact, it is not that under the current Jia Yan's operation, the 2 clones are much stronger. In fact, their energy is still at the sub-level, and even their speed is average. The only thing is that under Jia Yan's eyes, he has already seen the opponent's attack pattern. The impact is indeed very powerful, but Jia Yan made an evasive action before the impact. He will count you 1 step first. What's the use of having a more powerful impact? At the moment when the mid-level talent and half-star powerhouse lost consciousness, Jia Yan's 2 clones managed to avoid the impact, merged together again, and then both exploded in attacks. Poof! The two shadows, much smaller than each other, passed directly by the mid-level and semi-star genius. Then that day, Tian was stunned and his head exploded. Kill again. What is this called a sub-level? It should be a high-end talent and a half-star level powerhouse. Two medium-level talent and half-star level powerhouses cannot even receive two moves under their combined strength, and they died almost instantly. Why are there so many monsters in Tingtian Pavilion? I feel a little regretful. That MOK hasn't come back yet. We can't even defeat these two sub-levels. When he comes back, we will be defeated even more. The entire coalition team was stunned at this time, and even the leaders of several small forces had the idea of not wanting to fight again. You must know that they came to help him because they heard that MOK was not in Tingtian Pavilion, and that several big forces were in charge. Even if MOK returned, the main responsibility would not be on them. After all, the law does not blame everyone. But at this moment, they suddenly encountered a hard nut and felt that if they continued to attack, there might be casualties. This small force that was fighting against the autumn wind suddenly wanted to retreat. But at this point, how could those big powers be willing to let them leave? Everyone, come together. Those two guys are only at the second level. No matter how strong they are, can they defeat all of us? What's more, we still have highly talented adults here, and they can't afford to make waves. A group of big force creatures vaguely controlled the way out, pushing a group of small force battleships and masters towards the front of the battle line. In their opinion, Tingtian Pavilion was just an emerging small force. After all, to them, this kind of force that only controlled 4 residential stars and had few resources was no different from a small force. According to their imagination, even if MOK returns, according to the strength of their coalition forces, even if they forcefully attack, they will definitely be killed easily after paying a certain price. Unexpectedly, they encountered such huge resistance before MOK showed up. Yes, we must destroy Tingtian Pavilion this time. Everyone knows MOK's temper, and he must retaliate. Even if we leave now, he will definitely seek revenge one by one. Everyone wants to see his power be destroyed by him. Our people slowly weakened by torture. The female leader of the Pink Power shouted loudly. Hearing her voice, all the high-ranking officials were silent for a moment. The Red-Pink force is considered unique among the forces present. They are not strong, but among the top leaders of each force, there are wives and concubines from their influence. All living beings come here because of the visit of the Pink Power and the influence of their wives and concubines. And what the leader of the Red-Pink force said at this time is correct. MOK's previous actions can be seen that he is definitely a very vindictive person. Now that they have so many powerful people, they will kill Tingtian Pavilion. Kill the MOK who is about to come back together, otherwise there will definitely be big trouble in the future. Don't worry, everyone. The two sub-levels are powerful, but don't forget that MOK is only at the sub-level. Even if 10 years have passed, he will not be able to reach half-star level, so he is at most with the same strength as those two sub-level creatures. As long as we work together, are we still afraid that we won't be able to destroy Tingtian Pavilion? Moreover, we also discussed how to crack his black hole tactic before we came here. Mo Kikiang's strength lies in his black hole tactic. Without this trump card, what are you afraid of? These words from the leader of the Red-Pink forces made all the major forces around him feel refreshed. That's right, before they came to besiege, they had already discussed the tactics to face the black hole. For this reason, 10 geniuses with space talents were invited. With them, even if a single space talent cannot affect Jia Yan, it is still very simple to affect the black hole he placed in the subspace. That's right, to kill. A group of power leaders who wanted to understand finally made up their minds. Kill. They burst out with more terrifying power, the battleships fired more fiercely, and the number of strong men who entered the 4 Tingtian Pavilion stars through the gaps in the defense network suddenly increased. What's going on with the coalition forces? They suddenly increased their attack power. This is terrible. Ziba, who was on the main star of Tingtian Pavilion, was shaken suddenly. Then she turned on her brain and clicked quickly on the virtual keyboard with the power of her brainwaves. The reason why she was so nervous was simple. The defense network in space was her immature work. At this time, it was facing such a terrible coalition attack and was almost in danger of being destroyed. If she no longer intervenes manually, the defense will definitely collapse, and then the opponent's army will attack the entire territory and wipe out the Tingtian Pavilion forces. Just like the pressure from her side, Jia Yan's 2 clones behind the defensive net also encountered the biggest wave of pressure since the war started. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1200. For the 2 major sub-level creatures, the vulnerability area of the defense network is quite large, with at least dozens of vulnerabilities within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Jia Yan's heart was slightly solemn. At this time, through a unique communication method, his understanding of the subspace was transmitted to the 2 clones. Then the 2 clones actually have the ability to tear apart the subspace. Although they are not as familiar as the real body, they can also come and go quickly in the shallow space. Haha, we're in. Those 2 little guys at the 2nd level are still more than 10,000 kilometers away. It's definitely too late to come here. 2 medium-talented half-stars had just dashed through a loophole in the defense net in disgrace. Before they could get over their joy, they saw 2 bodies tearing apart the space, arriving in front of them. Then 2 big creatures rushed past them quickly. A sudden attack was the death of a mid-level and half-star powerhouse in a medium-sized heavenly server. How could it be possible? Are they also space geniuses? Damn it, retreat. Get back first. One of the other 2 middle-level geniuses had no time to escape and hurriedly ran back along the loophole, while the other one attacked the 2 major subjunctions unwillingly. He didn't believe that even he couldn't deal with these 2 little guys at the 2nd level. But the facts told him that some things in the world would exceed his expectations. Soon, the moderately talented man who had just turned around and fled for his life had just escaped from the loophole in the defense network. When he looked back, he saw that the colleague who had stayed behind to fight Jia Yan's 2 clones died with his body broken to pieces. Oh my god, we 3 mid-level and half-star geniuses went in together, but I was the only one who escaped. If I hadn't seen the opportunity quickly, I might have died. Are these 2 sub-levels still called sub-levels? It's so outrageous. Originally, those 2 sub-level creatures would definitely stop for a while if they had done such an unnatural act. But when this mid-level and half-star genius saw the 2 sub-level creatures who killed his colleagues, he didn't even look at the 2 dead colleagues. Instead, after killing them, his body suddenly shook. Suddenly, they both entered the subspace. A moment later, at another loophole, their figures appeared again. Holy shit. The moderately talented and semi-star level expert here could hardly help but curse. Because the 2 major sub-level powerhouses, the moment they appeared there, they killed 2 mid-level half-stars with the same 2 or 3 moves. Being able to kill a mid-level talent and a half-star powerhouse so easily, it's no wonder that they don't even want to look at the corpses of the enemies they killed over the next level. Forget it, I think this time it will definitely be bad. With such a terrifying sub-level guard, and that MOK, I feel that if he really comes back, it will definitely not be as simple as 10 years ago. This clever, moderately gifted genius actually looked around, then quietly retreated toward the edge of the battlefield. He is going to be a deserter. And he is far from the only one with such cleverness. Originally, there were not many forces that had issues with Jia Yan, and even if they did, it was just some trivial matters. Now seeing that Tingtian Pavilion was so stubborn, Some forces actually opened up their fleets and retreated quietly. Those bastards dare to violate the covenant. We will go back and destroy them. At least we will make these guys unable to stand in our dark domain. The leaders of several major forces were all jumping up and yelling at these small forces who had escaped. In fact, they also felt something was wrong through the tight defense of Tingtian Pavilion, but the small forces could escape, but they couldn't. Compared with the small forces, the big forces must be noticed by MOK first. When MOK comes to attack, they may be easily eliminated one by one. They are all scolding the pink power in their hearts. Beauty is a disaster. If it weren't for their instigation, how could they come to attack Tingtian Pavilion? Don't worry, it's just 2 sub-levels. Since the mid-level talent and half-star powerhouse can't do it, let's go. In this coalition, there were 3 highly talented and semi-star level experts. At this time, they all looked at each other, and solemn expressions flashed in their eyes. Then they winked at each other, and 3 big bodies suddenly flew out. The 3 top half-star geniuses with advanced talents actually attacked directly at the loopholes in the defense network. Coming. The 3 semi-star level experts with advanced talents actually took action themselves. Haha, those 2 sub-levels are definitely going to die. Yes, it is indeed powerful to be able to kill half-stars with mid-level talents, but facing the 3 half-stars with high-level talents, they will definitely die. The gap between mid-level talents and high-level talents is as big as the sky, and they will definitely not be able to resist it. An attack by a highly gifted semi-star genius. What's more, there are still 3 people who did this, and those 2 sub-levels are dead. Seeing the 3 highly talented and semi-star level experts taking action, everyone's demeanor changed drastically, whether they were personnel from both sides participating in the battle, or creatures that had not joined the battle for the time being. Everyone knows that the 2 major levels of Tingtian Pavilion are indeed powerful. They may be able to kill half-stars with medium talents, but that doesn't mean they can kill even half-stars with high talents. This is no longer a gap that can be solved with coordination or speed. Jia Yan, who was far away from the starry sky, had a condensed expression. He is also a strong man, and he understands the gap between the strong and the strong. If because his body has at least pseudo-stellar combat power, he can make his clones surpass those with high talent and half-star level, then the universe would already be full of major powers. The clone of the strong man. I definitely can't beat him, but I can't do it without fighting. Put it on, the longer it is, the better. Jia Yan's expression became even colder and he made a decision. Bai Huangfu, wasn't it great for you to follow MOK 10 years ago? Now come and die. If you want to blame this metal creature, it's your fault for being with the wrong master. It's going to die without even naming it. It's worse than this. Stop talking about both of you, just kill them. The 3 high-level half-star talents were dispatched together and flew through the loopholes in the defense network almost instantly. They surrounded Jia Yan's 2 clones from 3 directions. Buzz. At this moment, the 2 clones moved backward together as if they had agreed, and then the space behind them split open. They want to escape into subspace and join forces to suppress them. The 3 highly talented semi-star level experts all look solemn at this time, directly demonstrating their brainwave power. Without reaching the star level, there is no power to control, but many geniuses still have their own similar power to control the world. Now these 3 high-level talents and semi-star powerhouses also have it. The 3 of them exerted this power almost instantly, and then blocked the location of Xiang Jia Yan's 2 clones to prevent them from entering the subspace. Their strength is indeed powerful, and they are also crushing level to the 2 clones. But at this time, they were facing Jia Yan, who had a lot of combat experience and had even fought against 5 pseudo-stars. It seemed that they were just a little bit close, but the control power of the 3 powerful men actually passed by Jia Yan's 2 clones. Damn, why did you escape? These 2 little guys are really not easy, Keep chasing. The three high-end half-star talents looked at each other, and then with a more solemn expression, they directly pursued. They are not afraid of Jia Yan stalling for time, because they have enough confidence in their own strength. The longer they stall, the two big guys in front of them must have insufficient brainwave power, and they will have to let them kill. After all, no matter how powerful the sub-level is, how can it compare with the half-star level? The pursuit and escape battle between the two sides continued. But in other loopholes, without the entanglement of Jia Yan's two clones, the moderately talented and semi-star experts from the outside world were able to enter one by one. It's like entering a deserted place. In order to listen to the forces of Tianj, we charge. Suddenly, a group of figures flew out of the main star of Tingtian Pavilion, and they turned out to be a group of sub-level creatures. Their talent is only average, and their strength is only second level. Facing a half-star with average talent that is one level above themselves, they dare to charge, which shows how huge their determination is. It turns out that this group of creatures is the first batch of Guan-level robbers that Jia Yan first caught from the edge of the Dark Realm to join Tingtian Pavilion. More than 10 years have passed. This group of guys who used to be robbers on the edge of the Dark Realm have completely developed a sense of belonging to the Tingtian Pavilion. It can even be said that they were the only ones who were able to join the Tingtian Pavilion when Jia Yan was away. He is the person who has maintained Tingtian Pavilion to such a prosperous state. At this time, when they saw a group of creatures coming to destroy their hard work, they naturally tried their best. But hard work is hard work. Hard work cannot represent strength. Puff. Just when a sub-level creature from Tingtian Pavilion suddenly rushed in front of a moderately talented and semi-star level strongman who entered the defensive net, the opponent just stretched out his claws and was severely knocked away. If it hadn't been for that moment when Zibala on Tingtian Pavilion's main planet noticed this place and used a defensive laser to deflect the attack of a moderately talented and semi-star level powerhouse, the level creature would definitely have been hit that time. Die. But Zibala could save one, but not the other. Just when this sub-level creature had just escaped from death, a certain sub-level creature on the other side was targeted by an outside medium-talented half-star. He stretched out his fist and punched the level. With this punch, he was very sure that the opponent was destined to die. After all, it was not a second-level person who could kill the enemy easily like Jia Yan's two clones. But just at the moment when he thought the other party was bound to die, puff! He felt a foreign object suddenly coming from his body, full of murderous intent. He turned around and stared in disbelief. Better. He was about to speak, but before he could finish his words, the attacking object that entered his body actually exploded with brainwave power, killing him with one blow. Haha, Mr. Bai Wangfu. The people on one side were listening to the Tianj sub-level creatures. They were extremely surprised when they saw that the person who took action was Bai Wangfu, who was still being chased by the high-level half-star talent. They thought that these two sub-level creatures were I won't care about their life or death. But just when they were surprised, Bai Wangfu, who had just killed a mid-level and half-star powerhouse, suddenly swelled with muscles all over his body. In the sky, the sound of a bombardment of flesh and blood erupted. Haha, if you want to save people, it will cost you your life. Behind Bai Wangfu's shattered body, what was revealed was the figure of a highly talented semi-star powerhouse who had been chasing him. Bai Wangfu, who was able to cross levels and kill enemies, actually died at this moment because he was saving a sub-level creature from Tingtian Pavilion. Today, you Tingtian Pavilion are destined to perish. The half-star powerhouse who killed Bai Wangfu looked at the Tingtian Pavilion creatures and said lightly threateningly. But at this moment, a voice sounded behind him. You said, who wants to die? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1201. The death of Bai Wangfu, in the eyes of the Tingtian Pavilion creatures, was like ringing the death knell for their own family. No one thought that Tingtian Pavilion, with only one sub-level metal monster left, could still survive. That's right, we can't survive in the first place. How can a Tingtian Pavilion face the attack of the Dark Territory Alliance? I was so stupid that I actually believed that Tingtian Pavilion could break out and block the coalition forces. Even if Lord Mok comes in person, there is no way to turn the situation around. Every creature in Tingtian Pavilion regretted it. In the more than 10 years since Tingtian Pavilion, its strength has improved rapidly, and many creatures have tried their best to settle in the stars. Although many people escaped during the Tingtian Pavilion crisis this time, there were still some who stayed. They were all creatures who believed that Mok had done something unnatural in the past, and they all wanted to believe that Tingtian Pavilion could survive the crisis this time. Unexpectedly, among the coalition forces attacking Tingtian Pavilion, there were actually 3 high-level talents at half a star level. You must know that highly talented people are not so easy to see, especially in the Dark Realm. Such existences are almost always the overlords of one party. Their strength, because they fight more in the Dark Realm, is generally better than those in the outside world. High-end talents are half-star powerful. And sure enough, when the 3 overlords came forward, the 2 sub-level geniuses who had originally given people hope were instantly put into a dangerous situation. The next scene was something that the creatures in Tingtian Pavilion did not want to see. In order to rescue a senior sub-level creature in Tingtian Pavilion, Bai Wangfu was killed by a highly talented half-star overlord. Dead, even more than Lord Bai Wangfu. Now we are finished. I should have run away if I had known earlier. It's my fault for trusting that Mok too much. Unexpectedly, at this moment, he didn't come back. I want to see if he is too scared to come. You bastard, Tingtianga is harming me. A group of creatures who settled in Tingtian Pavilion were extremely depressed at this time, and some even yelled that Mok was not worthy of belief. But just when they all lost confidence in Tingtian Pavilion and Mok, the highly gifted half-star overlord who had just killed Bai Wangfu seemed to suddenly sense some extremely terrifying crisis. He was startled and flew back dozens of kilometers away. What's wrong? The creatures on the star below all looked at the talented man who had just won a great victory in surprise, wondering what he was doing. It felt like we saw a ghost, but we didn't see anything. Everyone looked at the frightened half-star genius without knowing why. But he no longer had any thoughts of paying attention to other creatures. Who? He looked at the starry sky behind him and roared in shock. But no voice in the stars answered him. Get out of here. This highly talented, semi-star level expert actually radiated full brainwave power towards the surrounding starry sky. Get out of here? What kind of strong man does he pretend to be? His roaring voice caused all the surrounding creatures to respond. Did he find any traces of a strong man? That's not right. We didn't see anything. Even the detector didn't respond at all. Could it be that this guy went crazy with excitement after killing a famous genius like Bai Wangfu? That's not right. He is a highly talented and semi-star strong man, so his mentality won't be so bad, okay. Regardless of how the surrounding creatures view him, the highly gifted and semi-star overlord genius seems to be going crazy at this moment. Keep unleashing your own power. In fact, he was not sure whether what he did was right or wrong. But he knew very well that the voice that sounded in his ears just now definitely came from an extremely terrifying existence. If he couldn't force the opponent out and let him launch a blow, he might die, so he just ignored the sight of others and kept wasting his strength. His actions shocked the other 2 equally highly talented semi-star level creatures. This rook can never be such a brutal creature. He must have felt something. Is there really a terrifying existence threatening him? The 2 powerful men looked at each other, and then concentrated, no longer caring about the sub-level metal monster that was almost in a desperate situation, but focused on observing the surroundings, alert for possible attacks. The actions of the three highly gifted and semi-star level experts made the surrounding coalition powerhouses tense up. If Rook is so crazy, there may be something wrong with his head, but if the three highly talented people are like this, it means there must be danger somewhere. The entire starry sky suddenly fell into a strange silence. Except for the fleets outside, which were still spraying firepower, making the already weak defense of the defense network even weaker, there should have been a huge attack inside the defense network. The strong team that had won a complete victory actually stood still at this time. Tingtian Pavilion's defensive troops also seemed to feel something vaguely, and they all invariably slowed down the speed of their attacks, constantly exploring the surroundings, as if they were waiting for the presence that was about to appear. The entire starry sky became solemn. However, this strange state did not last long. When the battle in the entire starry sky became faint, a smiling voice finally sounded behind the highly talented semi-star overlord who was the first to hear the strange sound. "You are very vigilant, but that doesn't mean you won't die." The moment the voice sounded, an indifferent figure slowly appeared from behind the highly talented semi-star overlord. He is none other than Jia Yan. Puff. Yajin's extremely sharp forefoot pierced into the body of this highly talented semi-star overlord before the eyes of all living things could see clearly. Mo the half-star overlord was shocked, and then turned his head. He never thought that no matter how hard he defended, he still couldn't defend himself against the opponent's attack. He had already made a guess in his mind as to who the existence that appeared was. At this time, the other party appeared behind him with his subspace talent, and he immediately confirmed his guess. But Mo only said half of the word, and a brainwave force suddenly exploded from the front foot. Boom! The whole space shook, and then this overlord who had been in the dark territory for a long time actually died. Oh my god! RUK was killed in one blow. Who is this creature that appeared? All the creatures in the world were dumbfounded at the lightning-like scene, especially the attackers, who couldn't believe that one of the three strongest men in their own alliance was actually killed in the hands of a strong man. I can't even hold it down. Although they had vaguely felt before that the creature that was about to appear would be an extremely powerful person, no one could have guessed that the opponent would be so strong. When the creatures looked around, they saw a flying creature with a slender mouthpart and six-legged tips appearing next to the corpse of the high-level semi-star overlord. This creature was not that big, and was even many times smaller than the half-star overlord he killed. But such a seemingly weak creature actually killed Rook with one blow. All living creatures looked at that arrogant person and could not recognize him. This is... Only one creature on the main star of Tingtian Pavilion was shocked at this moment, showing a look of surprise. She is Ziba. As someone who worships Jia Yan and joins Tingtian Pavilion, how could he not know that the person in front of him is Jia Yan? Except for her, no one else knew that the creature that suddenly appeared in front of her was the Moke, because in the past, the Moke had the appearance of a flying metal bird. Your Excellency, I don't know what your relationship is with Tingtian Pavilion. If there is no relationship, please don't meddle in your own business. We will definitely reward you afterwards. One of the three highly talented semi-star level experts stood up with a solemn expression and spoke respectful words to Jia Yan from a distance. In his opinion, although the creature that appeared in front of him killed the Rook in a sneak attack, its actual combat power was definitely not inferior to any of them, and it was not ashamed to say soft words now. Reward. Jia Yan turned his head and looked at Zhiyuan and looked at this highly talented man indifferently. That's right, no matter what kind of reward you want, as long as we can do it, it's easy to negotiate. The highly talented man looked happy, thinking that things were promising. The reward I want is simple, that's it. Your lives. After Jia Yan said this, he entered the subspace directly. And just when all living things were shocked, he had already appeared next to the highly talented semi-star powerhouse who spoke in an instant. So fast. The other party's demeanor changed drastically, and he was already extremely cautious. He even prepared the idea of escaping at a high speed when Jia Yan made a move. But he never expected that before he could escape, the other party's body would actually come to his side. What speed was this? Escape. He had no idea of fighting back, because the creature in front of him seemed to far exceed his expectations. But before his thoughts fully emerged, a sharp mouthpart had already pierced his skin. Ah, my blood! My blood! In an instant, the entire starry sky resounded with the pitiful screams of this overlord creature. The strong man who was supposed to have a tough character was now screaming as if he no longer had the dignity of a strong man. Please, spare my life, big man. While he was shouting, all creatures saw that blood vessels on his body seemed to burst open. Blood continued to flow along the blood vessels to the place where the mouthpart pierced the side of his body, and was then gurglingly absorbed by the opponent. Ah, this, what kind of monster is this? It actually sucks blood. Oh my god, a highly talented semi-star level venerable has no power to resist at all. When the shocked expressions of all the creatures emerged, the highly talented overlord was now like an empty piece of skin, and his entire body was devoid of any water. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1202. Puff. Feeling the body of the monster he was holding soften, Jia Yan pushed it gently, and the other person's body flew lightly into the deep tunnel of the universe like a piece of paper. That's right, the strong man who had his blood drained was already too dead to die. This monster. If you can't defeat it, run away. All the creatures within the defense were not shocked at this time, and their demeanor changed drastically, and then they all ran towards the direction of their origin and fled for their lives. Run, run, run. There is such a monster in Tingtian Pavilion. Who is he? It is so easy for even a half-star powerhouse with high talent. The official will definitely punish him. This kind of strong man must have exceeded the half-star level. He actually kills a strong person with high talent. The official will not sit idly by and ignore it. A group of creatures went crazy, especially the super powerful creatures that appeared. They couldn't kill them, and it seemed impossible to escape. At this time, everyone could only hope for the intervention of the official. But Jia Yan didn't have any scruples, because in his perception, there didn't seem to be any stellar powerhouses around, observing this battle. There are too many battles in the dark territory. As far as the officials are concerned, they will not care about many battles. After all, the dark territory is a place where the officials keep free. As long as many geniuses do not die, they will not care about it. But this time the officials will definitely be heartbroken, because not long after Jia Yan appeared, 2 high-level talent overlords died in his hands. Now, he even increased his speed and charged towards the third and last high-endowed half-star overlord in the opposing coalition. Die. When Jia Yan said this word lightly, he had already arrived at the side of the high-ranking overlord, and stretched out his front legs to kill him with one blow. Master Moke, please spare your life. At this life and death moment, the half-stellar overlord actually yelled out Jia Yan's pseudonym and burst into tears. Huh? How did you know it was me? Jia Yan was slightly startled, but stopped the assassination movement in his hand. The overlord's heart skipped a beat, as if he had guessed correctly, and his heart was slightly shaken. He also seemed to be pleasantly surprised because he was saved at the moment of life and death. Lord Mok, I realized it was you through your space talent and your attitude towards our killing. In the future, this force will no longer dare to defy Tingtian Pavilion. In the future, we will respect Tingtian Pavilion as our section from now on. Listen to Tian's order, please be merciful and spare this villain's life. He quickly knelt down in the air and kept kowtowing. You must know that he guessed that the assassinated creature was Jia Yan, and he was still unsure when he first called it out. Because even though he could tell that the opponent was a moke through his space talent, he himself couldn't believe it. At first, he could only rely on black holes or pursuit and escape tactics to kill the highly gifted and semi-star level moke. In just 10 years, it could become so terrifying. Do you respect us as your clan? Jia Yan thought for a moment. He arrived at the battlefield in time, and still used his natural space speed with all his strength. He could only do it at a close distance, but Jia Yan's original intention was not to completely kill the opponent. Because there are too many coalition forces this time, if they are really killed, it will be a big trouble. Although he had killed so many high-end half-star talents in the Tianhe forces, if he killed them again, it would be a real shock to the genius battlefield officials. A genius who has just returned from the outside world. Although his strength is terrifying, if he kills him wherever he goes, wouldn't that completely violate the policy of the genius battlefield? Jia Yan remembers that after he returned to the genius battlefield, he was killed by the Wuxi forces and Tianhe forces. He also killed him when he returned to this dark realm. Once or twice, the genius battlefield would forgive him for his defiance, but every time he came to it's like this everywhere, no matter how talented he is. Humph, please let these guys stop where they are and then disarm the battleship, otherwise don't blame me for continuing to kill. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed with murderous intent, causing the entire body of the surrendered overlord to tremble. It's too scary. Is he really a moccasin? That 10 years ago, the existence that could only be hunted down by a group of semi-stars and then use space talent designed to kill the opponent? At this time, MOK's strength was unknown to what extent. Okay, sir, I'll do it now in order to save his life. This genius overlord no longer dared to disobey in any way, and quickly used all his strength to roar at the surrounding starry sky. The coalition forces obey orders. Lord Mok has a good life and wants to spare our lives. Everyone, let go of your weapons and accept Tingtian Pavilion's arrangements. Anyone who disobeys orders will die. Well, we surrender? Isn't it right for Tianj to surrender? All the powerful men were stunned at this time. Even the warships outside that heard the news thought they were the overlords fighting inside and said the wrong thing. Because Jia Yan appeared too quickly and the battle situation changed too quickly, the mentality of all creatures at this time was unable to change from winner to loser. But soon, all the creatures understood the meaning of these words, and the entire starry sky, with the coalition of hundreds of thousands of creatures, was completely boiling. What's going on? We are asked to surrender. Why is this happening? Mok? Could it be that the Lord of Tingtian Pavilion is back? Even if he comes back, there is no need to surrender. Mok is strong, and he is strong because he has a black hole. In addition to defense, the female creatures of the Red-Pink Force were even more horrified at this time. You must know that this coalition attack was entirely led by them. If they surrender, they don't know what will happen to their own forces. Escape. Even if other forces surrender, we must escape, otherwise we will be dead, several senior elders shouted in female voices. That's right. If we don't escape, we will be dead. Then Mok will definitely not let us go. All the elders wanted to escape, but the leader of the Pink Power, the female leader, smiled bitterly and shook his head. Forget it. Let's surrender too. We can't escape, she said extremely bitterly. Perhaps we made a mistake in going against this Mok from the beginning. Listening to her words, all the elders fell silent. Not long after, all the coalition forces, including the Pink forces, actually surrendered when a single Mok appeared. This scene was so shocking that even most of the creatures in Tingtian Pavilion were unable to react. You must know that before, they were still on the verge of life and death, thinking that they would be defeated. But the sudden appearance of that strong man actually turned the tide of the war around with just one person. This made them feel as if they were in a dream, unable to believe that letting go was the truth. What the hell happened? The entire coalition army surrendered to us, Ting Tian Pavilion. Who is that powerful man? It's so scary. We, Ting Tian Pavilion, actually know such a powerful being. One by one, the creatures who lived in Ting Tian Pavilion, or whose workplaces were directly affiliated with Ting Tian Pavilion, all recovered from the surprise of the rest of their lives and looked at the sky, the majestic flying creatures that made people dare not look directly at them. None of them knew who the creature was who helped Ting Tianga, let alone how he would deal with Ting Tianga next. After all, saving Ting Tianga did not mean that the other party and Ting Tianga must have a friendly relationship. However, when all the Tianj creatures were extremely nervous, Zibala's announcement message spread throughout the starry sky. The communication voice from her rang out in the communicator of every Ting Tian Pavilion creature. Don't worry, everyone, this great being is our leader of Ting Tian Pavilion, MOK. Let's all cheer for our great leader now. What? He is actually our leader MOK, KKK, but isn't Lord MOK's body that of a metal bird? Why does it look like this, and it has become smaller? Haha, don't you understand this? There are creatures in the universe that can change their body shapes. If he is not Lord MOK, why would he help us? No wonder I heard his voice like I have heard it before. It turns out to be MOK grown-ups. This, our Lord MOK is so powerful. With such a leader, wouldn't it be that we, Ting Tian Pavilion, can control this dark realm? Long live Lord MOK. The four major Ting Tianga celestial bodies and the bookstore were full of surprises, but at this time, Jia Yan only felt strange. He does not recognize this Ting Tian Pavilion force that he no longer understands as much as the Tianhe force and Wu Ci force. However, this mentality did not hinder his acceptance of cheers. After many similar scenes, Jia Yan has been able to face them easily. Soon, he returned to the main star of Ting Tian Pavilion, the stone house he built himself. Sir, congratulations on your return and great improvement in strength. Several sub-level creatures followed Jia Yan, treating him well and in awe. It was agreed because Jia Yan's body shape had changed a lot at this time. If it weren't for 11 Bala's confirmation, they would never have imagined that the other party was MOK who had managed them before. Okay, you have done a good job over the years. Now I will assign some tasks and you will complete them within 3 days. Jia Yan nodded lightly. Although he killed 2 more high-level geniuses in this action, it was not without gain. At least the group of dark forces had become nominally affiliated with him. In this case, he wanted to make great achievements. Scale supplies, I have an excuse. If you have any orders, please give them, sir. You, remember your name is Bao Wei, bring me the supplies from Ting Tian Pavilion in recent years. After I finish selecting them, you can transport them over. You, are Tiandong, right? You will lead the Ting Tian Pavilion fleet to join our forces on this route. I have a list here. If they have it in the warehouse of their forces, get it directly. If you are disobedient, give me news. As for you, go towards this route. Jia Yan continued to give instructions one by one, but he did not expect that the scene where he remembered the names of several sub-level creatures would move all these creatures. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 1203. He is indeed Lord Moke, and he still remembers our names. We must complete the mission ordered by your lord. After all the creatures except Zibala were moved and all left under Jia Yan's order, Jia Yan let out a long sigh. He asked those creatures to leave to collect supplies in order to get promoted directly before the official reaction. Stellar. Master Jia Yan, welcome back. Are you sure you don't want to tell them your identity? Ziba asked uncertainly, standing in front of Jia Yan. No more, If there is a chance for them to know in the future, let them know. If there is no chance, forget it. Anyway, I will not be here in Tingtian Pavilion for too long. Jia Yan shook his head. What? Mr. Jia Yan, you said you won't stay too long when you come back. So where to go next time? I still have a lot of research here that I haven't completely researched yet and handed it over to you. Zibala was stunned when he heard this. For her, the appearance of Jia Yan this time refreshed her memory and made her admire Jia Yan even more. But at this time, Jia Yan actually said that he was leaving again soon, which was a blow to her. Moreover, in Tingtian Pavilion, Zibala even helped her father's forces in the normal star area. Especially after her reputation in Tingtian Pavilion spread, almost no one from her father's side came to make suggestions. If Jia Yan came back, if you leave, won't this layer of benefits slowly disappear? Ziba, I am leaving because of the laws of the genius battlefield. You know, astral level cannot stay in the genius battlefield. Jia Yan revealed a shocking thing. What? At this moment, Zibala really seemed to have an internal force explosion. She was completely shocked by Jia Yan's words. You mean, astral level? Are you preparing to be promoted to Hung, astral level? Although Zibala knew that Jia Yan was extremely talented, at this moment she still felt as if she had been struck by a giant thunder. Bang Zhong, his head was completely shocked by the news, and he was completely stunned. Jia Yan's talent is indeed strong, but this strength must have a limit. A creature that has only been in the genius battlefield for less than 20 years can actually reach the star level? This is no longer a genius or a monster, but an existence that is indescribable even with miracles. She was afraid that she had heard wrongly, so she couldn't help but widen her eyes, wanting to hear what Jia Yan had said that she had mistakenly spoken. But she didn't get the words. Instead, Jia Yan shook his head and continued to affirm. Yes, I am ready to advance, and it will be very different from the promotion method you know. In short, the materials I asked for before are the promotion items I need. I hope you can spare your hands during this period to help me solve the problem of these supplies. Ziba, I only believe in you here, and I hope you will not spread this news. Don't worry, Mr. Jia Yan. I won't tell anyone. I can actually help your promotion. This is my honor. A genius who has just been in the genius battlefield for 20 years can actually be promoted star. It's my honor to be part of this amazing miracle. Only then did Zibala come to his senses and quickly assured Jia Yan. After seeing off Zibala, Jia Yan was slightly solemn. What he said to Zibala before was not because he was impulsive, but because he always had to have someone in Tingtian Pavilion who could cover for him and know the inside story. Zibala is a very suitable candidate in terms of ability and loyalty. It can be seen that Zibala has a lot of feelings for Tingtian Pavilion. After all, she is different from me. She has been taking care of Tingtian Pavilion for more than 10 years. Even for this relationship, after I was promoted to a star, I tried my best to let's protect Tingtian Pavilion. After all, for a star level, even if it is no longer in the genius battlefield, it will still have some influence. After Jia Yan made his decision, he quietly adjusted his body. He needs to adjust his body to the best condition before promotion. After all, being promoted to a star is different from the previous small fight. This is a sublimation of the life level. What's more, Jia Yan directly impacted the star from the venerable. During this period, he passed 2 levels, 1 level, and half a star. For ordinary creatures, it is almost impossible to succeed. Even for an evolved beast like Jia Yan, it is extremely difficult for him to jump 2 levels in a row and hit the star, so he must be well prepared in advance. But what he didn't know was that at this moment, a very fast figure almost reached the edge of the Dark Realm. Huh? The Moke from the Dark Realm appeared again, and even this time, he did something even bigger, killing 2.5 star level geniuses. The figure that was approaching quickly made the whole person stunned. No, I have to go to Jia Yan first. That guy is a top genius, even more. Although MOK has already caught my eye, he is still worse than Jia Yan. I will ignore this matter for the time being and wait until I stop him. Jia Yan will talk about it later. This huge figure actually bypassed the lively area where Tingtian Pavilion was located, and pursued Jia Yan directly in the direction he identified as his escape. If the owner of this figure knew that the MOK whom he considered less important than Jia Yan was actually the same person as Jia Yan, would he be so depressed that he would burst into tears? It's a pity that he didn't know this at all, and even misunderstood that Jia Yan, whom he was pursuing, took advantage of the crowds in this dark area to escape to a farther direction. He actually investigated a few of his own. He thought it was a little clue, and then slowly and proudly flew out of this dark area. Jia Yan's crisis was resolved directly without him even knowing it. Of course, the crisis still exists, it has just been delayed. For Jia Yan, time is the most precious word now. 1 month goes by in a blink of an eye. During this month, Jia Yan also thought that the talented battlefield officials in this area would come to trouble him, and he even made several countermeasures. Unexpectedly, none of the officials from the Genius battlefield came over at all. Of course, Genius battlefield officials have always been slow to respond to matters in the Dark Territory. After all, the Dark Territory is quite special in the Genius battlefield. Sir, these are the supplies sent by the Red-Pink Force. In compliance with your request, they directly paid 80% of the supplies for this force. It will be difficult for this force to develop in the next few hundred years. A figure of a sub-level creature came to Jia Yan. Very good. Jia Yan looked at the supplies that the other party brought to the stone house. If he didn't want all the top quality supplies, the stone house would definitely not be able to accommodate them. Regarding the Red Powder forces who instigated a group of forces to besiege Tingtian Pavilion, Jia Yan did not kill them all. He knew that everyone in the Dark Realm wanted to kill them. Even if there were no Red Powder forces, there would be Black Fans forces. Green Powder forces jumped out, so Jia Yan just asked for extremely large-scale supplies. Also asked to do so were the major forces that were in charge that day, and Jia Yan did not hold back at all. Things were going very smoothly, even if Jia Yan's lion opened his mouth, but after his shocking move a month ago, no force in the entire Dark Territory dared to confront or disobey Jia Yan anymore. And this matter was originally their fault. They wanted to destroy other people's forces, but now they lose. It's not bad for them to ask you for some supplies. It's better than the entire force being uprooted, right? You must know the example of the power of the disciple group back then. It was right in front of you, and if you pissed off Moke, no one knew what he would do. Jia Yan's evil reputation has led to the current interception of supplies going relatively smoothly. It's been a month. Although the collection of high-energy materials and materials for stable energy promotion are relatively complete, I still feel a little uncomfortable when the lovely Disha is not here. Seeing that he had almost collected all the things he wanted, Jia Yan was still helpless and did not dare to take action. You must know that this is to promote to the stars. Originally, this method was the one that recorded the most relevant information on the Edissa. Although most of the information has been memorized in Jia Yan's head, without the guidance of the Edissa, Jia Yan still felt a little uneasy. That's all. Before there was the Edissa, I was able to survive on my own without any problems. Now that I'm just promoted to a star, I feel like I can't do it without it. What if I'm promoted to the galaxy level in the future? There won't even be an Edissa by then. If any experience can be used as a reference, I would be too afraid to be promoted at that time. Jia Yan laughed at himself, and then the determination in his eyes slowly settled. However, he still did not take action, but continued to gather his momentum and create the best mentality for promotion to the top. All the creatures on the main planet of Tingtian Pavilion were ordered to temporarily transfer to several other stars. Although this matter related to the net worth of many creatures, Jia Jiayan's prestige at this time was still no one dared to question. Implement. Tingtian Pavilion originally belonged to Jia Yan. If he wanted it to prosper, it would flourish. If he wanted it to stop, it would stop. This is all Jia Yan's own business. Come on, we can start soon. Except for Zibala, no one knew what Jia Yan wanted to do in Tingtian Pavilion. But the creatures around the entire star felt that faintly weird aura. After all, achieving star level has been a sacred and influential thing since ancient times. The birth of every star class will have a huge impact, which is not just about reputation, but even has an impact on the entire space. Just like now, while he was adjusting his breath according to the method recorded on the Edisha, he heard that the momentum on the main star of Tianj began to change. The entire starry sky was changing, almost different from the previous calm starry sky. Many people were shocked, but no matter who they were, they still didn't expect that Jia Yan would hide in the Tingtian Pavilion in full view of the public, and be promoted to the stellar level. Only then did he realize that the book already had more than 4 million words. When he saw the number of words, Bayu himself didn't know what he felt. It was very mysterious anyway.